Welcome back. You're listening to Real Estate Matters here on the Money Matters Radio Network. I'm joined today in studio by my co-host, Peter DeMore, and our special guest today is Ann Atamian from Coldwell Banker in Framingham. Ann covers the boroughs and beyond. Ann, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So we have a lot to talk about. Of course, we've been talking on the show for months now about the lack of inventory in the marketplace, increases in prices. Where do you see in your territory right now, and say the boroughs right now? How are things inventory-wise?
Every single town is very low in inventory.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that Ashland has a dramatic impact right now for inventory.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's showing on MLS it's 22 listings,
Yep.
but in fact there's about 5 or 8 approximately that are 55 and over. So really there's only 15 single families
Wow,
available.
that's crazy.
Very crazy.
I know. We were talking last week, Pete, to somebody that was mentioning, I forget what, I think it was Air, which is more of a, you know, it's a town where you have a lot of first-time buyers, and there was nothing on the market between $250 and $350. Nothing. There's nothing to buy.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
listen, it's happening everywhere. In the Wilmington, Tewksbury area, it's just, there's nothing, absolutely nothing in Wilmington.
Right.
Nothing. I was with an attorney from Wilmington on Saturday morning, and he says the biggest problem is nobody has anything to sell.
Right. Now, what is this doing to prices in the area you cover, Ann?
Well, obviously, when you have low inventory, what
Mhm.
it does is it causes buyers to funnel through a very small amount of houses.
Right.
And then they have to make choices, because what happens is if they're in good condition, they appeal to the majority, those houses will sell very quickly, and then the prices go up.
Right. Right. That's what we're seeing pretty much everywhere these days. And it seems one of the things we talked about before we got started today was what happens when you have those gaps because of the shortage of inventory.
Right.
And you were mentioning Ashland. So you were saying that for somebody that, say, owns a regular house, say a 5, 6, 7 room house, you know, they got a couple of kids, they're thinking about having a bigger family, they're looking for that next level up.
Yeah, the next tier.
Right. And in towns like Ashland and Air, Wilmington, everywhere pretty much, you have an issue where there is no second tier right now.
Correct.
And you have to...
Like, for example, in Ashland, right now, the price scale ranges from 179 to 390.
Right.
And then it jumps up for a single-family home that's not a 55 and over, all the way up to 565.
Right.
So you're looking at a price gap of $150,000.
Right.
That's a lot of money for someone to try to qualify and get up to the next tier.
Right, especially if you're selling a house for, say, $250. I mean, you're talking about more than doubling what you have right now.
Especially if that $250 is, you know, a 3-bedroom, maybe 1.5 baths, 1,500 square feet, and you're trying to get up to the 2,000 to 2,500 square foot home.
Right.
Yeah, that hurts.
And if you're priced out of Ashland, chances are you're priced out of all the surrounding towns, too. I mean, Holliston, Hopkinton, all those towns around that area, those towns are seeing huge appreciation in pricing and lack of inventory.
Perfect.
So
yes.
What do you see is going to, and I won't put you on the spot here too much, but what do you think is going to happen for the rest of this year as far as inventory and prices are concerned?
Well, I would encourage sellers to actually put their houses on now, because if they don't, what's going to happen is as the weather gets better and people prepare their homes, a lot more buyers are also starting their searches right now. They really need to prepare and put their houses now, because in March and April, the inventory is going to climb.
Right.
And then they're going to have more competition.
Right.
And then they're not probably going to get the best price for their house. Obviously, you know, if there's less competition, the better the pricing they're going to get for their home.
Right.
And then also it's a good jump for the buyers, too. It'll give them an opportunity to get into a really nice house prior to all the other competition and having to be outbid.
Right, and that's the thing. If you're a buyer right now, the worst thing you can do is wait. If you wait until the spring market, say April or May, to go out and start looking at houses, you're going to be out there with thousands of other people competing on the same properties, and in the end, you're just going to end up paying more if you're even able to get a house.
Correct.
You know, even last month, we were seeing, on average, multiple offer situations on anything that's priced right and in halfway decent condition.
Yeah, this has been going on throughout Massachusetts since the December timeframe, and on the radio show, we've been trying to get people to, get off the old thinking of wait till springtime to put it on. There are so many buyers out there right now because they're, I believe, concerned that interest rates could go up. So they want to get something under agreement now. They're out there, but there's no inventory.
Right.
So, for people in the boroughs and in Ashland and some of the other communities, that those people need to take some action now and maybe call you and have you come out and do a CMA on the house and see what the value is and look at putting it on now instead of waiting until the sun comes out in April.
I agree. I think one of the biggest problems is a lot of times sellers don't really understand where our spring market actually starts. Right now, we're already jumping. Spring market is now. You're seeing a couple of houses come on the market in every one of the towns, Westboro, Northboro, Southboro, Marlboro. It's really important. These guys are going to be ahead of the game. They're actually going to get those buyers now that are ready and willing and able today. And they're actually probably going to make more money than the houses that are going to come on the market in April and March. Now, I can't predict that for sure, but I'm just saying I would foresee that most sellers that put their house on the market today are going to actually profit more.
So, actually, now that you brought that up, as far as putting your house on the market, what would your advice be? Or what's the process that you put your sellers through when they're ready to actually bite the bullet and get it on the market?
And it's the hardest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I tell a lot of my people, it's kind of like the dating game.
Mm-hmm.
You got to really prepare yourself and get that first impression out there.
Right.
So what happens is first you should have good maintenance. Make sure no loose knobs, broken windows. Make sure things are well maintained.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you keep records.
Right.
If you have them, present them to your buyers. People want to know all the history about your house. The other thing is make sure you have a really good disclosure list.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if your house has a roof that needs attending to, write it in your disclosure. Don't leave it up to the home inspector to find the flaws in your house and have to come back to renegotiating to the table with buyers. Buyers want an honest transaction. So as more information that you can offer to your buyer about the home, the
Mm-hmm.
better.
Good. As far as buyers, what advice do you give buyers when they're starting to look at properties?
My feeling is that you want to give them as many options as possible, which is
Mm-hmm.
obviously difficult at this point because there's not a lot of inventory.
Right.
It's much easier with a first-time buyer to go out there and look because
Mm-hmm.
they're not attached to a town.
Right.
So what happens is you'll look in maybe Ashland, Southboro, Northboro, Westboro, and you'll see all the inventory in all the town. Once they become a seasoned buyer, they'll know the value.
Right.
And then they'll be able to see what you see is a good value for them and try to hit 90% of what they want. My job as a buyer's agent is
Mm-hmm.
really to go out there and try to help them get the best house for what they say they want.
Right. Now, when it comes to, let's say it's time to make the offer. They found a house they want. They see the value in it. Do you still have a lot of buyers that are under the impression that this is a buyer's market and they're going in there looking at a $300,000 house offering $240,000?
2 years ago, I would say you're absolutely right. They're still asking me to look for foreclosures,
Mm-hmm.
short sales, something that they could get a deal on. I think those days are over.
Right.
I hate to say that. I mean, there is a few here and there, but you better pull out the paintbrush. You better pull out the hammer and the nails and get ready to help, fix the house.
So that would be your advice to anybody listening right now that's thinking about buying is be realistic. I mean, if you find a house you like, it's priced well, and it's in decent shape, if you go in there and underbid, chances are you're not going to have any luck.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when you're looking at properties that seem that they're priced really well, you're also competing with investors as well as downsizers, people that might consider that home because they're usually first-time homes. They're usually like ranches or
Mm-hmm.
capes or things like that. So people that want to downsize are also looking at those as well as the investors and first-time buyers.
Right.
So you really realize you have the most competition there.
Mm-hmm. Now, also going back to the buyers when they're out looking at properties, they find that house they want to buy. Do you recommend that your buyers actually get a home inspection?
Yes.
Okay, all the time?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We do too. And, one of the things, if you're listening right now, and if you've actually bought a house before, you know what we're talking about. And if not, this is a great place to hear it the first time rather than looking at an actual inspection report. Is keep in mind, it's their job to point out every conceivable problem that house might ever have.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that because they give you a list of 100 things that your house is falling down and you shouldn't buy it, correct?
Correct. I always say to a lot of my buyers, they're there to raise red flags, to show you the flaws of the house. And they could be major or they could be minor. And it is partly my job and the home inspector's job to explain the differences of those.
Right.
And also to help you get qualified people to explain that further.
Right.
So, for example, again, if they need a new roof, let's pull a roofer in here, see how much it costs for you to get it repaired, what it will need to do to maintain it. Does it really need a new roof?
All right. And here's some questions we've been asked in the past. Why is the listing broker present at some home inspections, and do you think it's a good idea for the listing broker to be there?
That's a really excellent question. There's been a lot of controversy on this. It's been told by a couple of people that listing brokers should not be at their home inspections. And I was actually surprised to hear this. I want to be there for my sellers so that I can explain what happened at the home inspection so they can be prepared to know what the buyer might come back with.
Right.
And also, buyers have questions when they're there at the home inspection. So I can sometimes pick up my phone and call the seller right away and get those immediate answers that sometimes the home inspector might even have questions on.
Right.
So I think it's very important to be there. Also, I found that some people are saying to listing brokers, you don't want to be there because you have to disclose everything that comes up. So let's say, God forbid, it's too much, the buyer can't handle it and wants to walk away.
Right.
I understand, that happens.
Right.
But you need to disclose all the items that came up in the home inspection.
Oh, I never thought of that.
So what happens is they're afraid that what you're going to do is you're not going to help the seller because now the seller has to be in a position to disclose everything. But if you do your due diligence, you pull in the experts, you have all the information to explain to the buyer for the next possible buyer, usually all of that stuff goes away.
Right.
As long as knowledge is power is basically what I say to people.
Right.
The more you know, the more knowledge you have, the more of a better business decision you'll make.
Right.
For seller and buyer.
Right. And what is, when you're working with buyers, what is your average buyer looking at for a house? Is it more condos, single families?
Single families.
And is it
It's
first time buyers or is it move-up buyers?
I think everybody wants their own space. I think some people look at condominium as too much sharing property with other individuals.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling it out. I think condominiums have a great play for a lot of individuals.
Right.
It does provide a great community. If you're not a person who wants to get up and shovel their own driveway, it's perfect. But majority of my buyers want single-family homes.
Right. And what's the average size of the house that you're selling in the boroughs right now, or that your buyers are buying, I should say?
I would say majority of my first-time buyers are somewhere between 250 and 350. They're looking approximately 6 to 8 rooms, 3 bedrooms, preferably 1.5 baths.
Right.
Would be ideal.
And that's a good starter home. I mean, my first house was actually in Lawrence. I don't mind saying that. Not a bad town. I lived in a very nice section, and it was affordable. I mean, back then, getting into Andover, even in the 90s, was almost impossible unless you had a lot of money. I got a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home, and now it seems like nobody really wants that house anymore. Everybody's got to have at least 1.5 or 2 bathrooms, and everybody has to have granite because it's not a kitchen without granite. Am I right?
That is so true.
Right. My first house, not only was the kitchen straight out of the 70s, there was no dishwasher. The stove didn't work. There was no built-in microwave. Now you listen to what some of these people are looking for when they go out looking at real estate, and you just have to wonder if they've really thought about what they're willing to spend. Because it seems like it's going to cost about twice what they want to pay.
We all have champagne taste.
We do. Yes, we do.
Oh, it's amazing. The people out there could be holes in the roof, and it's a go as long as there's granite in the kitchen.
I know.
Just
my first house, the bathroom had green wallpaper over what appeared to be some sort of tile, and I figured, no big deal. I'll just pull the wallpaper down and refinish or reglaze the tile. Well, I get the wallpaper down. I don't know why I didn't think to do this before I bought the house. I get the wallpaper down. It's pink plastic tile from it had to be straight out of the 60s. I mean, you're going to go through the labor of having somebody install tile and you put up plastic tiles. It
was a very popular choice.
It was back then.
It was actually less expensive than the real McCoy.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, geez. I couldn't believe it. Avocado green
Yep.
toilet and sink and tub.
Baby
and hot
pink.
pink tile.
Well, you forgot Harvest Gold.
Oh, the Harvest Gold in the kitchen. Harvest Gold
Avocado
floor
green.
and the Harvest Gold countertops.
Yep.
Yeah.
My first house actually had contact paper for wallpaper on the walls.
Oh, that had to be tough to get off.
Orange, avocado green, yellow. It was gorgeous. Had a matching chandelier, by the way.
Back in the 50s and 60s, that's what they did.
That was the in thing.
In Wilmington, they had these 2-bedroom ranches, and they didn't build one of them. They built hundreds of them everywhere you looked, and that was our first house.
Yeah.
And it had 2 bedrooms, the basement, which I ended up finishing.
Yeah.
Cost me $20,000.
Can you imagine you couldn't
we
buy a
kill 'em
car
now?
for $20,000
That
today.
house just resold about 2 months ago, and it was completely refinished. Somebody bought it for $250.
Mm-hmm.
They refinished it, new roof, new this, new deck. Sold it for $408.
Wow, that is absolutely crazy. Well, I want to thank you, Ann, for being on the show today. And anybody that's listening right now, if you're looking to buy or sell in the boroughs and beyond, go ahead and give Ann Atamian a call. She's with Caldwell Banker in Framingham. Her direct line is 774-249-8718. Again, it's 774-249-8718, and we'll be back after these messages.